So we'll go ahead and get started. So you guys can see I have my beautiful model here, and I have obviously colored her, and I absolutely love this color. I thought she would look nice on our live today. So I thought she would be well, but you guys can already see, I'm going to show you guys a really quick layering technique before I get into any kind of styling. But you can see this side here is already pre-done, and both sides have been styled, but you can see how much this layering technique has opened up her face here. As for here, there's not as many layers, and it's just kind of dragging her down, covering up her face. So I'm going to show you guys really quick what I would do in the salon to really open this up and make this enhance all of my beautiful model's features. What I'm going to do afterwards too is I'm going to actually go back and I'm going to give her a little bit more of a wispy curtain bang. All of my clients, so something about me, I do work behind the chair full time, so I'm probably getting asked all of the things that you guys are being asked behind the chair, and the curtain bangs are definitely still in the curtain fringe, and I do love the look. We are going into summer here where I live in Ohio, even though it's snowing outside today. So fun. But a lot of things that my clients are asking is they love their curtain bang and fringe, but they almost want like a longer version of it with just some wispies. That way they can wear it more full, or they can completely really open that up if they choose to. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that as well, because I feel like it's something that can be utilized with you guys behind the chair as we go into the spring season. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my little layering technique. So I'm going to bring her just a little closer so you can see, and if you can't see my face, I think you guys are all fine with that as long as you can see what I'm doing with my girl. So you guys can see I really opened her up here. So I'm going to be starting and just working towards over-directing everything forward to create this really quick layering around the face. I find a lot of my clients right now are really wanting more of that butterfly layering around the face, and they honestly don't care too much about what's happening in the back. Obviously, us as stylists want the whole head to look good, so we do focus on the back a little more, but I find I'm focusing a lot more about layering around the face because that butterfly kind of butterfly layering is very popular right now. So I'm going to be focusing on layers around the face. So I am actually going to start right here with my first section here. You guys can see I'm going to take about 1-inch sections for this whole little cutting technique, and I'm on a diagonal right now because I'm kind of following the diagonal of my client's hairline. Now, since she's a mannequin, she does have kind of almost that more wonky hairline, I call it. So whatever hairline your client has is where I actually take my first section. So if she's more diagonal, I'll take a more diagonal. If she's more vertical, I'll take more of a vertical section. That just kind of helps me cater this layering technique to my client's face as well. I also want to take a point to look at my client's features because I really want to enhance any features that we want to. Here, this beautiful model, my beautiful girl, Maddie, she has these really beautiful cheekbones, so I really kind of chose that layering where I choose my starting point, my guide, I'll show you. I really chose it to open up right here around her cheekbone, so we really enhanced that feature, and she also has the square jawline, and that's really going to enhance that as well. When I have another client, say with a different face shape or different features, I may choose my starting layer to be longer or shorter. So that's how I determine that. If you guys see here, I actually determined she started right about just below her chin here. It's going to be her shortest piece. That way when I curl this and open that up, it lays back and falls out of her face as opposed to falling right into her face, which is what we want to avoid, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start. I do have the rest of the hair kind of clipped away. And I have my 1-inch section here at a diagonal back. And we're going to start here. I'm distributing with, one thing I like to do when cutting is I do have my Olivia Garden carbon comb here from the carbon set, which I absolutely love. The biggest thing I will say that has helped me cutting, because I find a lot of times I will distribute the hair and then it'll be loose. See how that fell out right there, things like that. So what I like to do is I will use my wide tooth to distribute to where I need to. And then I'm going to go back and flip my comb over, use my fine tooth, and that's going to give me that tension that I need so that everything is in the correct space. One of my cutting tips there, and I'm going to be using my favorite Olivia Garden shears, the Silk Cut Pros. These are great for wet or dry. You guys can see I don't have her wet here right now. I am actually starting this dry. I obviously am going to go back and wet her a little bit to style her with our blow dryer. However, I wanted you guys to see the difference in these hairstyles, so I chose to have her dry. And I do often, listen, I told you guys I work behind the chair full time, so oftentimes when it's time for the haircut or trimming, we don't have a ton of time, right? Especially if it's just a quick layering technique or a quick touch up. So a lot of times I'll get that style, because as long as that style's good and beautiful, that girl's gonna walk out the door absolutely loving what we've done, even if I don't have a ton of time to focus on the haircut, even though it's super important as opposed to the full look. But typically when people are wanting this kind of long layering, with some shorter pieces around the face, we don't need to focus on it or take too much time on it, right? So I like to style my girl for the most part, and then I'm gonna go through and cut. So this is something that I would do with my clients behind the chair. So I am gonna focus on taking every piece kind of right towards the face, and everything's going to go there. I can almost use my nose or my mouth, any of those features, as my guide so that everything gets taken to the same place. And you can see here, I'm actually standing slightly behind and to the left of my client because I am right-handed, and I would actually do both sides like this. That way I get a symmetrical look. I wouldn't go back and forth just because a lot of times when I find I do that, I change my hand positioning and then my layers aren't actually even on the side and I have to go back and forth. So if I stand in the same position, I find that I get a beautiful symmetrical layering on both sides. So let's go ahead and start. I told you I like to talk. So I'm gonna go ahead, and since I've already cut her and determined my length, I'm going to actually take just a little piece of this side, just a teeny tiny piece, so that I can use this as my guide as my shortest layer. So you guys can see I then switched, and I'm using my fine tooth side of my comb. I'm pulling right to the front of the nose there. And you guys can see there's my guide. And I'm going to be working, this is where it comes to preference. I'm going to be working behind my fingers just because I find that I do better that way. But if you want to work in front of your fingers like this, that's absolutely up to you. This is going to be not a slide cutting technique, but I am going to be going out and opening and closing my shears as I go. So I have, you guys can see my guide there. It actually even fell out, which is totally fine. Can everyone hear me, I assume? I haven't had anyone say that they cannot. And please feel free to ask questions as we go if you come up with any questions. So I found my guide working, I'm gonna work behind it, and I'm just doing a slight open and close of my scissors. So I'm not slide cutting, I'm not keeping my scissors open completely the whole time, especially since her hair's dry. I find that I like to slide cut more when the hair's wet, but I'm actually just doing a small open and close technique and working my way down, making sure I'm staying right in front of the nose and taking out all of that hair, creating that layering around the face. I'll move her back a little bit since her hair's so long, that way I don't go right to you guys. So then I just like to go ahead before I move on to my next section, and I just like to check to make sure that I created a nice, pretty layer right around the face here. And I will go through and check to make sure that I'm symmetrical on both sides, yes, with those shorter pieces. Now something that I want to address, because when I first did this cutting technique, which I learned recently from a good friend, I went through, because typically what I'll do is I took a chunk out of here, and then I found where I wanted that to sit, and then I cut that and chose that to be my guide, and then I went back and started doing my technique, and I found that no matter how hard I tried, I still had this chunk here. So really going through and choosing your guide during this process and actually slide cutting into that guide and creating that and working out is going to create that really seamless flow. That way you don't have this big chunk that's sitting here that you have to find a way to lighten up, whether it be with your texturizing shears or going back and point cutting a ton. It's already done for you, which less work, the better for us, correct? Correct. So I'm gonna take this piece again, and I just wanna make sure, because she does have really long full hair, you guys can see all of that. I'm actually just gonna go through again and do the exact same technique, making sure I'm right in front of her features here, and I'm just gonna slide cut down, making sure that I've created enough angle and enough layering right around the face. There we go. And then go through and check. And I like that much better. You guys can see how already I can open that up right around the face, even without styling. With just that one section. Awesome, right? Cool. So now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my sections 1 inch. I'm gonna go parallel to my last section, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing using that as my guide. So the more that I go back away from the head, the farther that hair has to travel, creating the layers getting longer and longer as we go forward. Because again, we really want to focus on those layers around the face. Is anybody getting the same kind of request as me? You guys they really want the layering around the face. That's really where they want to focus, because that's really what's in right now. And I absolutely do love the look. So I'm a fan of it. I'm all for it. So you guys can see so I have all of that hair in my hands now. So that last section that I cut, I pick up as well, because I'm using that as my guide now. Over directing to the face, making sure I find my guide, and I'm just going to do a slight open and close. All the way down until my length falls out. And since she's got so much hair, especially for a mannequin, which is awesome, thank you, Pivot Point, for making the best mannequins for me. I'm gonna go back and just do again the same thing, making sure that I go all the way down to my length. You guys can see it's even getting more opened up as we move our way back. And obviously this side is styled more, so she's gonna open up more when we go to style her. But you guys can see how that'll lay. That just opens up her face, and I love how that just accentuates. I'm all about a square jaw there and some high cheekbones, so accentuating that on her is just, I'm loving it. Another thing that I want to mention, you guys see that I went right into my layering that's the very first thing I did. I didn't go in first and check my perimeter or cut a length. The reason that I do that is because we are working we're choosing our shortest layer and then working our way down to our length. And what I like to do, especially if we're not taking a ton of length off, I'll actually go through after, and that's when I choose my length. The reason I do that is for 2 reasons. If I was taking like a ton of hair off of her length, I would probably go through and cut some first, just to get some of that off. That way I'm not cutting and doing a bunch of work that I don't need to. But if I'm only taking an inch or less off, maybe even up to 2 inches, I'll go through and do my layering technique first, and then I'll go through and cut my perimeter. The reason for that is because we're not gonna change, by cutting the perimeter last, we're not going to change where our shortest layer lies or how flowy those layers are down to the length. But what we are going to do is we're going to, if she's got finer ends and we're going through and layering that and they get wispy, what I do, if I go through after and cut an inch off of here, then I'm taking out a little bit of that layering we did and creating that full perimeter again, because we're taking out just a little bit of that. So that's going to make her perimeter or her length look a lot fuller. We don't want that to be wispy. And that way it's just quick, done, and it stays full through the ends as well, as opposed to layering it all, and then we have those wispy ends, which nobody likes, am I right? So I'm gonna go through. I saw a few people say hi everyone. If you guys are watching, let me know where you guys are watching from. I love seeing everyone join us. And for those who are joining us, what we're doing right now is I'm actually going through and doing just a quick layering technique to really, you guys can see on this side, which is already done, we're just kind of opening up and creating those kind of butterfly layers throughout to open up her face and accentuate her features. Columbus, I love Columbus, Ohio. Hi, Cindy. Thank you for joining. You guys know I love Columbus, Ohio, and you. I am near Columbus, Ohio, obviously. And Cindy is a good friend of mine. Who else is watching? So you guys can see, I'm just doing, again, that open and close using my Silk Cut Pros. I absolutely love the Silk Cut Pros because they work great for doing this kind of open and close technique as I work my way down to create my layers, because of the way that these blades are shaped, they're actually going to push the hair out just slightly for me, and then they're going to cut off at the length that I want. So they're actually creating a nice closed, sealed hair as they cut. So I'm still keeping the hair nice and healthy and getting rid of all the split ends as well, instead of creating any during this technique. You guys see that's opening it up beautifully. Awesome. From Pennsylvania, so neighboring Ohio, hello, welcome, and thanks for joining. Good afternoon to you. And I'm just, again, guys, just working my way back now in 1-inch sections. So we'll complete this really quick, and then we can move on. Now, as I move back, obviously, as we get behind the ear, we're going to be adding a lot more hair because this all goes down through here. And I want to make a point to say that I'm really just letting the length fall out. I am going to, I'll show you, take probably 2 sections of this and over direct all to that same point right in front of the face. Make sure you got it all combed out. You guys can see, that's my tip too. I swear it changed the way that I cut hair. I distribute the hair with my fine tooth section, and then I go back and switch to my wide tooth, switch back to my fine tooth and redistribute, so I get that really good tension, get out any tangles. That way we have a nice clean cut. And you guys can see my guide here almost falls out, and I'm gonna work and just open and close. I'll do it in front so you guys can see. I feel like I find it works better for myself if I cut behind my fingers, because I can keep that tension. If you're working in front, you might not get as much tension, which is okay. You're gonna get more wispy, flowy layers that way, if that makes sense. So I will do it in front so you guys can see it. I'm just slightly opening and closing as I work my way down in one solid motion. So you guys can see both of my hands work together and they move at the same time as I slowly open and close my shears. That way I'm getting a nice solid movement and not creating any steps in the hair as we go. And since I'm behind the hair and have all that extra, behind the ear and have all of that extra hair, I'm going to take another section. And again, even though I'm cutting my length later, I don't want to really cut into my length now, so I let all of that fall out. And just make sure that I go and I'm working my way all the way through to the bottom of that hair. Love it. You guys can see how opened up that is already without the styling. I absolutely love it. And I am gonna show you guys how I create these curls that really open up the face, and I'm actually gonna be using our new blow dryer, the Super HP blow dryer from Olivia Garden that just launched, and a round brush. So you guys can see I create this look, which is a nice, beautiful, bouncy look with the round brush. That's gonna last her, since we used the blow dryer and round brush, it's gonna last even longer. She's gonna get a couple wears out of that. Beautiful. So I'm gonna take my last section so that we can move on to the next. Does anybody have any questions? Does everyone like this? Will everyone use this? I feel like this is nice and simple and easy, but it really creates that framing around the face, and you can customize it so much. We could take shorter layers and start more here to really create more of that fringy look. You could start down here to accentuate more clavicle area. There's so many ways that you can customize it just by choosing a different length for your shortest layer. So I'm going to comb all of this forward. I'm on my last section, so I'm in the very, very back of the hair, so I'm not creating much layering here. Some may even fall out depending on how long your client's hair is, and that's okay. I would just let that fall out, and if I need to address those ends later afterwards, then that's when I would do that. But I would still go through the whole head, over-directing everything forward, and anything that falls out because it's shorter and stays back here, we'll address that after. But you guys can see, so my shortest layer is here, and I have all of this that I can carve into. So I'm going to open and close technique. And again, make sure that you're doing one solid motion. I'm not keeping my fingers that are holding my hair here. I'm moving them forward as I go with my shears. That way, I'm getting a nice fluid movement and not cutting out too much of my hair. Beautiful. Awesome. And that is that finishes that. So if I wanted to let my client leave like this after styling a little bit more, I might throw my curling iron in this one section to really open that up like this side is. See that? Beautiful. Then I would be good to go. You guys can see how quick that would be working in the salon, not really explaining what you're doing. And I do like to do one side and then move to the other. That's the way that I personally like to work, just because, I mean, it works best for me. But if you choose to, you could do one section. You could work tandem, do one section on this side, one section on this side, and move back and forth through the hair. That would be totally fine too. That's completely up to you. But I like to do one side and then move to the other side. Now, real quick before we do move on to create more of that fringe, I will say that I do stay in the same body position the whole haircut. So even when I move to this side, and I think I mentioned this before, I'm still going to stand right here. That way I'm creating that same angle as I work my way down. If I'm gonna move over here to this side, I'm probably gonna change my finger position and I'm gonna be working against myself. Not that that's wrong, but I'm gonna probably create a different angle on this side than I did on this side, just because I'm holding myself differently. So I'll take a quick section over here, just so you guys can see how I did it standing on this side. Again, I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, you probably would want to stand on this side of your guest, but I'm standing on the left side, working with her on the right. So I would take that diagonal back section. I'm just going to do this as an example because she already has been cut. Now, if you guys are like me in the salon, minimal clips is great for some reason. I don't know why. Like clips everywhere. I don't know, I guess they give me anxiety. I don't know. So I'm just working with one clip and clipping that out of the way. But the way that I do take these sections, I could almost use no clips with this, which is awesome as well. So you guys can see, I'm gonna take this, and this is already cut, so I'm not gonna actually cut. I just wanna show you guys my body position. So you guys can see, I actually am gonna comb underneath the hair. That way I can bring that hair straight to the same side or same position that I cut the other side in, right in front of the nose and the mouth. Same elevation. I'm holding this hair the exact same with these fingers, and I can go down the exact same way I did on the other side. That way, I'm creating perfect symmetry on both sides of the hair, instead of moving from side to side and changing my body position. So you guys like that? Awesome. I hope so. And something quick that you guys can do behind the chair to really give you almost like that butterfly layering. I like it. The butterfly flutters, the layering really focused on around the face. And when we style this, we'll open this up as well. I want to show you guys too. I always check for symmetry, so I like to stand, well, if you guys were my mirror, which I can thankfully see, I always like to stand behind my client, and I just like to pull from a couple pieces to make sure that we are symmetrical on both sides. So those fall out the same. That way, if I need to go back, I really am all about a symmetrical haircut. Pull. And if I am pulling from the top or a different section, I make sure that I'm pulling from the same on both sides. Sometimes I'll even just not look at it and just feel it to make sure that we are even, and I feel pretty good about it. So we'll go ahead and move on. Awesome. You guys love this? Easy peasy. Real quick too, I'll turn her around so you guys can see the back. You guys notice that there's not a ton of layering going on back here, but there is some, since we over directed all the way, and it's just the longer layers through here, whereas more is back here. Now if I wanted to add more back here, all I would do, make sure she's nice and combed through, is I would just take, I'd start in the middle. This is an add-on if. This is not necessarily something that I do for this technique, but if your client does want more layering in the back, then this is what I would do. I would just start in the middle and take about a 1-inch section from the apex here, the top of the head, down, and I'd let all of this length fall out because we want that. And I would just take this up and over direct it about wherever you want. The more you over direct up, the more layering you're gonna have. The more you stay down, the longer, less layering you have. So that's going to be up to you. And I would just go back and I would decide where I want that, kind of find that guide from where I pulled it forward, and I would just do the same thing down just to create more layering in the back if I wanted to. And that's easy peasy. And I would just take pie sections all the way to the back of the ear and not focus on anything in front of the ear when I did that. I would do that really quick in about 4 sections just to add more layers in the back if that's what my client wanted. Super easy. Awesome. So I am going to go through and cut a really quick curtain fringe on her, more of a curtain, I guess. So this is pretty much a curtain, but like I said before, if you guys didn't hear, I do work behind the chair full time, so I'm seeing a lot of the things that you guys are probably seeing as well, and a lot of my clients have wanted that more full bang that has the curtain as well. So I'm going to go through and show you guys how I add just a little bit of wispy. The biggest problem that I'm finding is that people are having trouble connecting those shorter wispy pieces to these longer face framing, what can I think of the word? What's it called? The longer, I just said it, curtain pieces. Thank you. So I'm going to go through and cut a few wispies and teach you guys how I connect those to these longer fringe pieces, because I do have clients who want to keep it longer, but they want the option to have a few wispies that cover their forehead, or they can push them to the side if they choose to. So I'm going to do that as well. And then we're going to go through, excuse me, just getting over that thing that everybody's got, like more sinus stuff. So if I cough, I apologize. And then I'm going to go through and show you guys all of the features about my new favorite appliance, and we're going to use this to style our hair for this beautiful opened up kind of wavy 70s style, which I absolutely love. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? I hope you guys are loving this. I hope I'm making it easy enough for you guys. So I'm going to go back. So this is where I'm really going to work on sectioning. So I'm going to take a triangle section. So my guest here obviously has a middle part, and we're going to keep that part. This does work best with your guest having the part closer to the middle. Now she can be off center a little bit. Now if I had a client who has a really, really, really deep part, I would go about this slightly differently, which we can talk about, but it's going to be for the most part the same. It gets a little tough. The farther you move away from the center, it gets a little tougher to really create that curtain open piece, because you're losing a lot of this hair on the side. And depending on their recession, you're not going to want to cut into this too much and take away a lot of this hair. So it gets a little tougher. So I am going to leave my guest middle parted here. I'll lower her so you guys can see really well. If you guys are just joining, let me know where you guys are joining from. Again, I want you guys to really learn something from this and make it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, I do have my computer up so I can see the questions, and I will go back. If I don't get to answer them, I'll go back and check as well. Excuse me. So I'm going through, I pulled her forward just so you guys can see. I wouldn't necessarily have my client move their head forward or put their chin down for this. I just want you guys to really more so see what I'm doing. There we go. If I know how to use a mannequin stand, maybe I can show you guys. There we go. That way you guys can see. So we want this to be more wispy. We don't want a full bang, and we want that to blend into the curtain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, depending on how deep I go, is going to depend on how full this bang is. So I'm going to keep it wispy, but I do want there to be impact. Sometimes we take too little of a section, and then we have to go back and add more and add more and add more. So I do work with at least about a 1-inch deep section, and I take that triangle and I really focus on either going to right about the recession or the corner of the eyebrow here. If she does have a recession, obviously it's not going to make it all the way to the corner, but that's where my goal is to get to that corner of the eyebrow. So I'm going to work almost, that looks about, on the camera it really looks like 2 to 3 inches, but it's about 1.5 inches, I promise, the way that she's got here. So about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, work to the corner of that brow. You guys can see that's my section. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. That way we are symmetrical. You guys can see if I pull that up. And I want to make sure that I'm even. And I do think that I have more on the left side, so I'll go back and take from here. Perfect. I'm going to move her back up. And this is going to be the section that I'm working with. So I'm going to clip everything else away, just because I don't want to touch it and accidentally cut or anything like that. These are my new, I just got these smaller double clips and I absolutely love them. They're from Olivia Garden. So you can see, I'm going to hold that. There's one clip, but then there's two. So if you have multiple sections, you can still use one clip and it holds all of that hair. So I'm going to clip this away. I absolutely love these clips. And use another one to clip this other side away. That way I'm not cutting anything on accident, because that would be bad. All right, and this is going to be quick, that way we can move into our styling, because I really want you guys to see the awesomeness of our new blow dryer. So I'm going to take one section, and the best part about, since I've already done that, the layering technique, I'm already going to have a guide. So I'm choosing my piece that I've already cut into as my guide for these curtain bangs or curtain fringe. And I'm going to just over direct just to create some more layering in here so you guys can see, you guys can actually see, I almost have a guide on both sides. My guide here, which is going to be my actual guide, and normally I wouldn't have shorter pieces over here, but since we layered her, I do, and I'm just going to connect those two pieces. So over direct to the other side, easy peasy. And I like to point cut this because the wispier and more flowy that it is from the start, the less we have to go back and texture. And we don't want to create any too heavy lines around here because I really do want it to fall away from the face and not interface. So point cutting is going to be my best option. Again, I'm distributing with my fine tooth piece so that I get good distribution and good tension. I don't want to have too much tension because I do want it to be nice and flowy. And then I'm going to just go through and I'm going to point cut. You guys can see, I'll stand behind her so you guys can see. And just take that off and create those nice peaks and valleys in the hair. And I'm going to let that fall. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Making sure that when I do the other side, I am elevating the same when I distribute the hair. If I was down here, I want to stay down here. If I was up here, I want to stay up here. I want it to be symmetrical. So elevating the same, using her facial features, whether it be her eye, or her nose, or her mouth, or her chin as guides. So if I elevate it to the nose, I want to elevate to the nose on this side. That's going to make it equal. Finding my guide, which I see right here, and then just going through and point cutting. Something to do when you're point cutting, these Silk Cut Pros are amazing for point cutting as well. Making sure you're not going in too much at a diagonal and creating steps in the hair. Really going through almost completely up and down to create that. That way you're not creating steps in the hair that you have to go back and thin out later anyway. Something that I really had to practice, but when I did, it creates the most perfect wispiness line. I almost never have to go back anymore with my thinning or texturizing shears to create that, which is something that I absolutely love. So we're just opening up her face a little bit more and creating more of that curtain effect. Now to create those wispy pieces, I'm going to keep this section out, keep my other hair pinned away. What I'm going to do is I want those pieces to come from within this. So I'm going to create an even smaller triangle in this hair, about half of it. So if I were about an inch deep for this whole section, I'll take about a half an inch to create this smaller triangle within. And that's where those wispy pieces are going to come from. So I'm going to move to the front of the hair. And if I absolutely need to, make sure I have all of this. Make sure I have all of that. You guys can see. If I need to, then I'll clip these away. But if not, then I can let them stay. But that's the great thing about the double clip. I don't even need another clip. I can just clip it into that top section. I have my other clip. Da, 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 da. And that's out of my way. Awesome. So this is where we're really going to go in and create those shortest pieces. I love to do this dry. I would not recommend necessarily doing this too wet. It can be a little bit damp because remember too, when the hair is wet, it's going to be a lot more flexible. You can pull it a lot more and you don't want to do too much tension. And then when we go to dry it, it goes bing. And then you've got, you know, those short pieces, short fringe or bang that we don't want, which we've all done probably. I will admit to have done it, doing it before. We've all done it. So I do work this dry. So I'm going to go in, and I like to use 0 elevation, 0 tension. So I actually go in with my comb, and I'm creating the tension with my comb using my fine tooth. Again, I don't like to pull too much on this because even if it is dry, it can still pop back up, right? I don't really want any tension. I really want to see where this length is going to lay, because if I go too short, then that's going to screw up the entire look. If I go too long, I can obviously go back more. So I'm standing in front of my client, using my comb as my guide and my tension, and I'm going through and seeing where I want these to lay. I always go a little bit farther. The goal here is to have a few just wispy pieces right laying at the brow. So I'm going to go below the brow and cut. And I'm going to point cut. Again, not using my fingers for tension, but using my comb at 0 elevation here. That way we can really see where that hair is going to live after it's finished. Create those pieces. Da, 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 da. And obviously she's going to get restyled in the fringe, and I'm going to show you guys how I do blow dry this. But you guys can see where those will live. It looks a little crazy right now, right? I think they're a little bit too long because even when they are down, they're a little bit longer than I'd like them to be. So I'm going to take a a little bit more off and doing the same thing. Using my comb, going underneath the fine tooth side of the comb for my tension. I accidentally picked up that piece and that's okay. I'll just put it in here. Just one piece, it's okay. And then going back and cutting just a little bit more and finding really where I want those pieces to lay. And it is okay that it looks crazy. I'm going to show you how I go back and restyle these for my client afterwards. And I think those are going to be a great length, especially if we pop them just a little, they'll fall right at that eyebrow. So now I'm going to let, for some reason that's my sound of the day. And maybe I should be a magician. I'm going to let these pieces that I clipped away fall out, but leave the rest of that hair back. I'm going to show you guys how I connect these wispy. Oh no, you dropped comb. I'll go get my other one. I love this carbon comb set because there's so many combs I can actually use. This is the Olivia Garden. I have 2 loose. This is the Olivia Garden carbon comb set. I love it because it's got 2 of the big handles. We've got a wide tooth and a fine tooth. I have the bigger cutting comb, which I'm going to use, the smaller cutting comb, and it's got 2 of the long tail combs for foiling as well. And the cool thing about the long tail combs is they have this grip on them, so I don't throw it like I just threw my other comb, because I'm a dropper. I have butter fingers. I'm glad I haven't dropped my shears yet. Hopefully I didn't just jinx myself. All right, back to this though. We are going to connect these now. So I added all of that longer hair to my shorter hair, and I'm just going to take little baby sections on each side at a diagonal, just like I did before, okay? And we're going to use the technique we did with our layering at the very beginning of this video and into this fringe area. There is a reason that I showed you guys the layering first, because we're going to use that same, I don't want to call it slide cutting technique, but we're going to use that same opening and closing of my shears technique to connect these shorter pieces to the longer pieces. So I'm going to stand here. I almost went da 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 again, guys. So I hope you guys can that can be our sound of the day. No one will know what we're talking about. So I'm going to find my shortest piece, which is pretty darn short, and there's all this hair, but I still want this to be my length, right? I don't want to cut all of this off. So I'm going to over direct, and I'm going to just do a slight open and close out until I get to my longest piece. You guys see how all of my fingers move together? I set my shears on top of my fingers that are holding the hair, and they move out together, slowly opening and closing. That way I'm not cutting off too much hair, I'm just really creating a soft, feathery layer. And then I'm going to go up and take my next section, which is all of that side, And I like to comb from underneath when I'm coming from here. And I'm gonna take from the very tippy top of this point to find my guide somewhere in here. There she is. Making sure that I'm not cutting off too much. So she's right here. Again, open and close. Making sure I'm not cutting into my length at all. So it's almost about to fall out, so I'll redistribute the hair into that length that I just finished. And then we've connected so that when these pieces are fringy, it doesn't disconnect completely from short to long. We've connected those two pieces. So I'm gonna do the same over here. Once you really get the hang of this, you can actually take it, it's just a little baby section, obviously. This is just a small, so you don't necessarily have to subsection once you get the hang of it. You can take it all as one section. I'm doing the same, I'm over directing. Notice that I did not change my body position. That way I'm getting the exact same angle. My fingers here are being held the same on both sides, and I'm staying in the same position. That way I get symmetry on both sides of the hair. So finding my guide to my shortest piece, open and closing, all the way out. And then I ran out of room here, so I'm gonna redistribute because I have little baby fingers. Find that piece that I cut and just continue my way out. And then that's gonna allow us when we style this. I told you guys I'm a butterfingers as I throw my other comb. It's okay. So we style this. These pieces are gonna be nice and fringy and wispy, but she's gonna have these curtain fringe pieces that open up. So it's gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead, take these clips out so we can move on to the styling. Does everyone have any questions? I can't wait for you guys to see this, what she looks like when she's actually styled pretty. And I hope, because this is something, again, I see all of the time behind the chair right now. So I just kind of had to come up with a way to make it work. And this is what I do every single time. And I absolutely love it. That way it's blended, or connected without being disconnected, and the client has that option of wearing some wispy pieces to make it more full. But the great part is if she wants just more open, she can. And since we went through and did all of that layering that we did before, something fun, which I'll show you guys, I have a lot of clients who work out. So when she pulls her hair back, she can have all of this too if she chooses to have it out, which is a super cute look. This side's not styled, so she looks a little crazier, but I mean, come on guys, that's super cute. It's almost like, it's like watching someone work out in the movies when they have that perfect hair. That's what we want for our clients too, right? All right, so we're gonna move on to the styling, which I'm gonna be using my all-time favorite new tool from Olivia Garden. This is the Super HP Olivia Garden Blow Dryer. So you guys know we do have our blow dryer that we've had out for a while, which is absolutely amazing. And we've added on to our appliance team and family with our new Super HP. This just launched March 1st, so you guys can actually go get yours now. If you haven't, I highly recommend. I've been using it for a few weeks now, and I will say that she's my new favorite. You guys can see I actually, something silly, but I want to note is the color of this. I love the color. I absolutely love the color. I used to have a car this color, and I'm not a car person, if you guys couldn't tell. Cars probably aren't really my thing, but I used to have a car this color, and like literally every single time I got stopped when I was pumping gas by like the biggest car man in the gas station. He was like, I love that color. What's the color of your car? And I was like, well, this is the color. I had to learn that it was called Space Gray because I didn't know the color, and everyone asked, and then they were asking me questions about my engine, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is just, it's a Honda Civic. So the color's super sharp. I know that's a silly thing, but it's a true story, and I'm like, I don't really know. So when I opened this and saw the color, I was like, I absolutely love this color, and everyone else is going to love it too. It does come, obviously, with the concentrator nozzle, which I keep on it all of the time unless I'm using diffuser, which I'm going to show you guys as well. You guys can see it's super ergonomic. I love the style of this. It's very lightweight. It literally weighs, I think, like somewhere in, it's like a pound or something, literally. I wish I had, I'll get the details for that part for you. That's one part I don't know in my head. But I absolutely love how lightweight it is, and it's also super quiet, which we're going to be styling with it so you guys will see. It also has 3 heat controls. So you got 3 heat settings, and it also has 3 speed controls. So I absolutely love that you can customize it based on the thickness of the hair, the texture of the hair, how high heat you want or how powerful you want that blow to be going. And it also obviously has the cool shot button, which I do utilize a lot. What I'm going to do with the round brush for this side is something I do all of the time. So I utilize the cool shot a lot to get a quicker set so we hold that curl. It also has obviously the on and off button here, and it also has a lock setting, which I love because I'm all the time accidentally bumping into these while I'm blow drying, right? So once you choose your heat and your speed setting, you can actually lock it in. So these buttons don't work anymore until you unlock it, so that way you're not changing your heat setting while you're doing your blow dry, not realizing it, which I actually think is genius. It also has an awesome memory function, so the last heat setting that you chose and speed setting, it's going to remember that when you turn your blow dryer on again. So if you're like a medium heat, high speed kind of girl like I am, it's going to remember that when you turn your blow dryer on, so you're not going to have to set it all the time. So I absolutely love that as well. It's super advanced. It has a long cord, so I'm not getting it stuck. I can actually work all the way around my clients without having to move her, so she can still see what's going on in the mirror, which I'm almost like a stickler for. If my client, unless they want like that surprise, I like keeping them facing the mirror so they can see what I'm doing and they're not scared the whole time. So the long cord really helps with that. I can work all around the head without having to move my client. And it also has a dual filter, which, thank you, Olivia Garden, because I know the filter and cleaning thing is like our least worries, right? I mean, a lot of people probably don't take the time that they need to clean their filter, but I absolutely love this one because it is a dual filter. So, and I take this off, which is an easy twist. Oh, there's the filter there, and I can use my brush that it comes with to just clean this off really quick, snap this back, and bam, she's clean. Awesome. I love this thing. This is my all-time favorite. Also, you guys can tell she's pretty quiet. So I have her on. You guys can see everything is on, and I think that she's pretty quiet. I can still have a conversation over her with my client with this blow dryer as opposed to just nodding yes. Yes. Can I pay you later? Yes. I didn't hear you. And then you get to go to the checkout and they're like, oh, you said I could pay you later. This time that's not going to happen with this because you can actually hear what's happening. Which I absolutely love. Here's the box. She's beautiful. And I'm only showing you this because I'm going to show you what comes with. So you got your blow dryer, but you also have your diffuser, which is super important to me. I do a lot of curly. I have my curly hair, which is growing back. I cut it off for the summer, so she's growing. So I do diffuse, so I'm excited that it has an awesome diffuser, and then there's the brush that it comes to clean with as well. The diffuser is awesome because it really clicks on super easy. And you guys can see on this diffuser, there's actually, I don't know if you can see, but there's openings on both sides of this, of these little fingers in the diffuser. So the air is actually being diffused every way during the diffusing process as opposed to just one way where that opening is. So you can see all the little holes as well, and these fingers, and they're open on both sides, up and down, and side to side. That way you're really getting a good diffusion of the hair going every which way when you put that in. That way you're getting awesome diffusion. So this thing is a favorite of mine. If you guys work with curly hair, this is a blow dryer you're definitely going to want to try out because I do find it really hard to find a good diffuser. I'm not going to lie. And this diffuser I absolutely love. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to wet her down just a little bit. Excuse me. My cough every time I talk. It's only when I talk. I'm just wetting her down for the sake of this live with water in my spray bottle. Does anyone have any questions right now? We are getting close to an hour and I'm going to go over a little bit. You guys can spend as long as you want with me, but it's also going to be living on the Hairbrain, so you guys can, Hairbrain Facebook, so you guys can obviously come back and check it out again. I'm just working on this side because like I said, I did style this side before, but I'll go through and wet the fringe area since we cut that so we can restyle her as well. Are you guys enjoying this? You guys having fun? Something you'll learn? I know it's Monday, so hopefully a lot of you are enjoying your day, not behind the chair, maybe learning. And if you're like me, Monday is a big books day, our least favorite thing, right? So I'm getting this side wet, and I'm also just making sure that I blow wet this fringe area. I would not normally spray down my client like this, spraying her face, but luckily this girl doesn't mind too much. And then I am going to use, I love, again, the Olivia Garden Carbon Combs. This is the wide tooth. This is my all-time favorite kind of comb. I love a wide tooth, big handle comb to detangle hair. I use them in the salon the most. We do have a lot of detangling brushes as well, which I love if someone's extra tangly, but I love these. And my clients are always like, where do I get one of those? So this is my favorite, the Olivia Garden Wide Tooth Carbon Comb. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna go through so typically what I would do in the salon is I would blow dry it. The shortest hair is what I'm gonna blow dry first because it's going to dry the fastest probably. And also the fringe, as soon as that starts to dry, we all know that when hair starts to dry, wherever position it is where it's staying. We can try as hard as we want, and it's not going to, if it's dried in that direction or that shape, it's gonna stay there until we wet it down again. So I typically will work in the fringe first, that way I can really get anything to lay exactly where I want it to without having to wet it down again. And then I'll go into my longer lengths. So I'll go ahead and actually do that now. That way we have our fringe dry, and then I'll show you guys how I actually do use the round brush to create these nice, pretty waves that open up around her face so that we accentuate all of those layers and all of those features we wanted to accentuate with her haircut using the round brush. So I am going to be using our new cycle tools today. So these actually, I do believe, I don't know how long, we'll find out, but these are a free gift with purchase with the blow dryer right now. So these are our new cycle brushes. You get 3 of them, and they come in the same color of the blow dryer, which I think is awesome. We do carry the new cycle, but they don't originally come in this awesome bluish, silvery gray, I don't even know, space gray, that's what we're going to call it, color, which I love this color. So you get 2 sizes of the new cycle round brushes as well as the paddle brush with the blow dryer, which is awesome. So I'm going to use these to style today. The new cycles, if you don't know, are awesome because they are made out of recycled material. I absolutely love that Olivia Garden is really big on reducing their carbon footprint as much as possible. So not only do a lot of our packaging, any plastic that the brushes come in, any brushes are going to be recycled material, but we want to step ahead as well and use recycled materials to make our new cycle brushes. They do still have the titanium thing, the brush is titanium underneath here, besides obviously not the bristles, which is going to heat up and help not only dry the hair faster, but it's also going to smooth the hair, almost like a flat iron as well, while we're blow drying, which is awesome, which is why I can get this beautiful styled look without having to go back later with something like a curling iron or a flat iron. So I love that because it saves time as well, and I love having the 2 sizes. Obviously, like all of our brushes as well, there's a pick in the bottom, which I absolutely love to help section the hair, so I always have those out as well. Excuse me, I'm so sorry guys. That's my little cough is starting to pick up. It's been so good. It's because I'm talking so much. I'm a talker, I told you. So, when I'm choosing my size for my round brush, when I'm going through and creating this look, I'm always going to choose based on how big and wide I want that curl to be. So if you guys look, obviously I used this size here because that fits perfectly into that nook there. So if I wanted it to be a bigger, wider curl, looser curl, and I would go through with this one. But since she's this size here and we want that more curly, wavy, I went through with my small one. So I'm going to go through with that. And I do always, with my fringe area, I always go through with my small one. I don't want too much volume here, so I go through with my smaller brush. The other great feature about the blow dryer is that it does have a very high wattage. It's 1,875 watts. What does that mean? You probably don't. Everyone's like, okay, cool. Why is that? So it's very, very powerful. The wattage is going to determine how powerful the airflow through here is and come out this side. That is what the wattage determines. It has nothing to do with the heat. But because we have such a high wattage in here, I find that I can use more power than heat to blow dry the hair, not only quicker, but I'm using less heat, so it's going to be healthier for the hair, right? Which is what we're all about. So the healthier the hair we can have it, and the faster is what it's all about. So this blow dryer is going to be awesome because of that. That has all of that power. So I always start in the fringe. I'm so sorry. So in the fringe, I never have high heat. Even if I am using high heat for the rest of the hair, which I rarely do, especially with this blow dryer, I'm never going to have high heat. So I'm going to start with low to medium heat. I'm going to use medium on her for the sake of this video. And I'm going to use high power. I'm going to use medium power in the video, though, because I do want you guys to be able to hear me. You should be able to hear me, but I don't know what it sounds like over there. So typically what I would do, low to medium heat and high power, and that's going to get me where I need to be with this. So you guys can see I've changed it to medium on both of my settings, and I'm going to make sure, again, I'm starting in the fringe here. So real quick, I talked about how I always start with the smallest pieces first, right? So the smallest, the shortest hair, blow dry the shortest hair first. So the shortest hair is going to be these little baby pieces, right? So I'm going to make sure that I have everything else out of the way and really focus on this baby pieces. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to move my blow dryer around. The more I move my blow dryer around, the more erratic that hair is. I really want to keep the blow dryer in the direction. This is a concentration nozzle, so I'm really going to concentrate the direction that I want that hair to fall. So those little pieces I want to fall down in this case. I don't want them to be straight and stuck to her head. So I'm gonna work at the root and I'm gonna make them fall down. And then once I have them in the direction I want them to go, I'm gonna lift them up with my round brush. I will clip this away. I'm gonna lift them up with my round brush to finish smoothing and drying those ends. And I want them to be more rounded at the end. So that's why I'm gonna follow through with my round brush going this way. So I'm starting getting them the direction I want to go this way. My blow dryer, you can see I'm just going to hold it almost in one spot, and then I'm going to go through, flip that up, get those pieces, and finish through with my round brush. So we're going to go ahead and clip these other pieces away, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to need one of the combs that I threw on the floor. Maybe. We're going to use this because, oh, they're both on the floor. I told you guys, I'm a dropper. So the best way to find these pieces is just comb everything down. And then none of those pieces live down here, so I'm just going to take all of these away and find those little baby pieces that we cut. Doop. And if a few of the longer pieces live down there too while we're blow drying, it's not going to be the end of the world, I promise. So we'll let that, so there's that. So we'll start there. So again, I'm going to hold the blow dryer here. Oh, I set the wrong thing down. Got my new cycle brush. Holding the blow dryer up here and then focusing on where I want that hair to be. And then, now that I have it in the direction that I want it, I'm even going to pull out a few more. You guys can see where that wispiness is coming along. I'm going to go through, I'm going to pick this up so I can smooth out these ends. I'm going to take my brush, or my blow dryer, and just let it sit here and smooth out those ends and give them just that little bit of curved roundness. And then I'm going to take my blow dryer away to let it cool just a teeny bit and let those fall out. You guys can see that created that nice wispy look. Awesome. Easy, quick and easy. So now I'm going to go through, I'm going to add in my larger piece. So remember I took about 1.5 inches back from the hairline, so I'm going to go through and do the same thing to find those pieces that I've cut into my fringe. And again, if you have longer pieces like this, obviously is into the layer, that's totally okay, because I'm going to style it all the same. I want to open it up. So I'm just going through and grabbing, and I like the fact, sometimes I'll use my comb, or these clips, they're nice. I told you guys, a dropper. Who can relate? If you're a dropper too, Give me a thumbs up because I drop everything. I'm awful. So you guys can see this has like a nice point, so I can use these to section, or I can use my little end of my brush here. I'm just gonna clip this away. So now what do we want here? So we need to determine what we want. So again, we want to open this up away from the face and keep these little fringes here. So I'm actually going to, again, I always start my blow dry based on where I want the hair to fall. So at the root. So the root's choosing the direction that we're going, right? So if I wanted the hair to fall, you know, completely this way, I'm gonna blow dry that root this way so that that's where that hair lives. I want all of this to kind of fall forward a little bit and then open up. So I'm again going to go through and blow dry the roots almost down. I'm going to keep my blow dryer here and kind of down, forward, but to the side as well, and get those roots dry. And then I'm going to go through with my ends, and I'll show you I'm going to open all of this hair up. I'm actually going to take it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll start underneath to get those mids and ends dry just a little bit. And then, so all of that hair that I've dried already is going to fall out. I'm going to go through on top and I'm going to blow dry all of this back. Over directing forward because again I want that forward movement. Cover up the, I want that bang forward movement and then I want it to open up. So holding my brush forward, keeping my airflow underneath to open up all of those ends. So we'll start. Again, medium heat, medium speed. And get those roots dry to where you want that hair to live. You guys can see I'm not moving my blow dryer too much. I'm more so keeping it almost in one spot, just moving it from side to side. Get those roots dry. I'm gonna pick this hair up. I want all those little hairs to fall out. I don't want to worry about what I've already brushed or already dried. Distribute the hair so it's nice and smooth. Go over top and get those mids. You don't want to worry about the ends right now. We're just getting those mids dry. And then I'm going to go through, go on the top of the hair here. So now I'm working back. So really focusing on getting a nice bend to those ends. So work on the ends, get those nice and dry, and then pull the round brush up slightly to get the bend through the middle. Now one big tip on round brushing hair is if I'm pulling, so you guys can see I'm rounding, I'm twisting the round brush so that I grab more hair and move up, and then I'm pulling through. Now if I'm getting a lot of resistance when I'm pulling through, that means the hair's still wet. If it's nice and smooth like this is now, that means that the hair's dry and I can move on. That's a good tip to know whether the hair is dry or not. So then I can move up. I want to make sure I have that grabbed. Move all the way up. So I'm slightly off base here, and I'm going to let this cool. I could cool shot if I want to. I will say, in the fringe, a tip of mine, I don't really necessarily love to use the cool shot because I don't want to blow the hair in any direction I want. The bangs and the fringe are the most important, so I like to leave this here, let that cool a little bit. I'm going to set my blow dryer down just so I can show you kind of what I do. I'll take this. I really like to let this cool. And I'll start to work it up so that it falls. You guys can see. Done? No. Open this up. And you guys can actually work on each side now. And I like to comb it through and just kind of twist it out to where I want that to lay. And open up those shorter pieces. And go to this side. And I use my brush to really get that curl in there. I use the brush and I just slide it out and twist that into where I want that to fall. Where's this long piece coming from? This is the best part of this live, is that so you guys can see I have a few long pieces. I'm actually just going to go back through and cut those because obviously that's where they want to lay, and I want that to be I don't want my client to have to go back and cut any random hairs that are going to want cut. So I'm going to all I'm going to do is I'm not going to do any elevation. Oh, I almost tripped. And I'm just going to cut these long pieces that are here because they obviously want to live right there. And I always do go back and refine a fringe. That is like a must for me. I never let anyone who's getting a new bang or fringe cut leave without me drying it and seeing it. Awesome. Let's see. These pieces want to fall out, so I mean this seems long, I know, but if we leave that, it's going to fall in front of her eye, and I don't want that. I want those wispy, so I am going to go through and just cut. And you can leave a little bit longer through there, so that opens that up perfectly. Woo! I could drop everything, guys. I'm telling you. Thankfully, that was another. That was nothing important. That was an old brush. You guys can see how that opens it up. Awesome. You guys like that? Easy, cool. Hopefully that. I used to have a lot of trouble blow drying a curtain / fuller fringe, so it took me a lot of practice to really figure that out. And then they have all of that wispiness there that they can also just kind of open up to if they want and create more wispy. Cute. All right, so now let's move on to blow drying their side, and then we will be all finished with our beautiful girl. Are you guys enjoying this? You guys like it? I hope. Can I get a thumbs up if we are? I hope. If you guys have any questions at all, please ask. I gotta grab this right here. I'm back. Couldn't leave that on the floor. All right, so we're gonna move into the side here. And I like to work my way down and up. So I'm gonna start, this is the exact sectioning I would do in the salon, guys. And I'm only gonna do a few sections, that way we can be finished and you guys can move on with your day. Awesome. So you guys can see I've taken a section, just almost like it starts to horseshoe back to the corner. So since I've already done this side of the hair, I'm only working on this half. So then I've got this section here, and I've also got all of this hair here. And again, I'm going through with my smaller new cycle. And I'm gonna use my pick at the bottom to section. And I am going to work right here on top of the ear as my first section. So remember what we talked about before. So when we start the blow dry with a round brush or at all, we're focusing on just the root area because we want to see, we want to focus on putting that hair where it lives. So if I want it to live straight down, I'm going to focus these straight down. If I want it to be forward a little bit, then I focus this way. If I want it to be back a little, focus this way. That way we're really getting that hair to lift where we want it to. I want this to fall forward just slightly, and then I want it to open up, just like the other side. So I'm gonna focus, I'm gonna put my brush on top here at first, and I'm gonna focus, I'm gonna distribute the hair. So I'll go both sides just to get it nice and distributed evenly. And then I'm gonna focus on just the roots. Again, medium heat, and I'm using medium speed right now as well, but in the salon I would probably use high speed. And I'm just gonna focus on these roots right now, getting them forward and dry just slightly. I hope on the video you guys can hear how quiet the blow dryer is. I'm gonna move back a little so you're not just seeing my big forehead vein. I know, she's always there, she's present. So focus on those roots first, get those dry the direction that you'd like them to go. You can go on both sides just to make sure you're evenly heating and distributing the air with my concentrator nozzle. And then once that's where I need it to be, I'm gonna flip, and that's when I'm gonna start this blow dry. So I want this to fall away from the face. So you guys can see, I'm just gonna work and get this hair dry from the mids to the ends now. You guys can see I'm still over directing forward just slightly as I move through with my brush and my blow dryer until I get to the ends of the hair. And once I can see and feel that most of the hair is dry, remember my tip, if you're working your way through and you're getting resistance, then your hair is probably not fully dry. But if it's moving through pretty smoothly, then that's a good indication that you've dried all through that section of hair. Now, I'm moving through pretty smoothly here, so I'm gonna work on now making that curve, or making that curl. So I've got it all the way to my ends, and I'm using my blow dryer to wrap those ends around my round brush, and then I'm gonna work my way back here, still keeping that heat on the blow dryer, so that heat's creating that curl around my round brush. And now is when I will use my Cool Shot button to really set this curl in before I move on to my next section. I'm turning my blow dryer off so you guys can hear better. So I've let that cool. I'm going to touch it. I oftentimes will really put my hand on there to see if it's cool, because the cooler it is, that's going to set in the curl. Because the curl still is warm or heat, and there's any heat coming off of it at all, it'll be a looser curl, which may be fine. That may be the look I'm going for, but I want to use my round brush and not have to go back necessarily and use my hot tools. For timing's sake, maybe. A lot of times I will go back if I have to and just refine a few, but the less work I have to do and the quicker my client gets out, the better for both of us, right? So you guys can see I'll let that dry. I'm going to unroll it, and I'm going to start again, and I'm just going to twist. So I'm going to twist this. I want this curl to fall this way. So I'm twisting that curl through my brush the way that I want that curl to lay until it lays out. And then we're just going to let that set there and let that finish cooling as we work our way through. Normally what I would do is I'd work to this section now, and then I would work my way up. What I'm going to do for the sake of this video is I'm actually going to do my top section now to finish, so you guys can really see how this opens up her face and completes the look that we were going through at the very beginning. So I'm just going to take this section here. And I do like to take my clips and clip everything that I'm not brushing out of the way, because a lot of times I'll accidentally grab hair that I don't want, and then the section becomes too big and it becomes a mess. The cleaner that we're working with our sectioning, the better round brush you're going to have. And the better blow dry you have, the blow dry is really the foundation for the style, right? So even if I am going back and using a curling iron or a flat iron, depending on the look I'm going through, if I have a nice solid foundation with my blow dry, there's going to be minimal work that I have to do later on, and also it's going to last a lot longer because the hair is blown dry and set into that style where we want it to live. So same thing, I'm going to focus on my roots real quick, and real quick, and I'm going to focus, I want them to fall slightly forward, but then we're going to have them open up around the face. So I'm going to focus the roots diagonal forward like this, and then I'm going to move on to the mids and ends of my blow dry. So I'm going to take my brush, go through just the top to create some tension, turn on my blow dryer, and focus on these roots, getting them to lay where I want that hair to live. And it's okay to go through and pick up this piece fell out. It's okay to pick that up, go back through. And again, this is, you guys probably hear my blow dryer. I think it's very quiet, but it's so powerful. Like, these roots are already pretty much dry, which I absolutely love. So we do have an awesome comment about this is how they do their blow dry, but they do. I'll say it in a second in case you guys can't hear me. So now we've got these roots dried to where we want them. So now I'm going to focus on the mids and the ends. We do have an awesome comment, which is I'm going to mention because it's something that I use as well. This is how they do their blow dryer, but they use our multi brushes, which actually the handle releases, so you can actually keep the brush in the hair almost like a roller, so that it can actually sit and cool during the process. I absolutely love those as well, and I actually have them right here. So you guys can see these are the multi brushes, and the handle actually will click in here, so you use it like a round brush, and then when you're done with your section, you unclip it so this stays in the hair and sets like a roller while you do the rest of the hair. I absolutely love these. Again, this is the Olivia Garden multi brush, and they come in several different sizes. The green's my go-to for sure, but I love these brushes as well. I'm using, again, the Olivia Garden New Cycle brushes, which are made out of recycled material, and I absolutely love. These ones come right now as a free gift with your blow dryer, which is why the colors match my favorite color. I love. All right, so back to this section. We've dried the roots forward where we want those to live. Now we're going to focus on the mids and the ends. Excuse me. Get these mids dry. Da-da. So this is where we want to focus. So this is the part of the hair that we want to curl backwards and away from the face. So I'm going to take my brush, go on top of the hair to create that curl, and work my way through the rest of the hair to get this hair dry and then create that curl. And really set that curl in. Again, a good indication of if that section of hair is dry or not is if I'm getting resistance as I pull, then it's probably still wet. If it's flowing through really nice and smooth like butter, then I probably have dried it all and can go ahead and start focusing on my curl. Now, we have all of these smaller layers you guys can see that are starting to fall out. Ooh. I'm sorry, girl. That are starting to fall out here. I'm not going to worry about them. The more I worry about these, the more I'm going to mess this section up. I'm going to let those fall out and we'll focus on them in a minute. Again, I absolutely love this blow dryer because it's so lightweight. I feel like I'm holding nothing, which is amazing. And it's so powerful. It's got the 1875 watts. So I get that extra power behind my speed. So I'm getting faster blow dry time, but I'm able to use less heat. And I can really worry about keeping the hair healthy even during the blow dry, which is important because that's really where the heat styling starts, is the blow dry, right? So if we can turn down the heat with the blow dry and still get a nice, solid, beautiful foundational dry, then we're already decreasing the amount of heat that needs to be on the hair, which is decreasing the damage that is done due to heat on the hair. So again, now I'm getting at the end. So I'm working in the front, so a lot of that hair is falling out. You guys can see, and I'm gonna just let that fall out. I'm not gonna worry about that. And then I'm using my I'm using my concentrator nozzle to wrap the ends of the hair around my brush, and then working back, smoothing that as I go, making sure the heat is on. The heat's gonna create that curl. Push my cool shot and really cool this curl down and set it in. And a lot of times, so this hair's falling out, which is fine, but this hair wants to be, so I will just kind of guide it along and wrap it in there so it cools in that nice, beautiful curl. I'm touching it to make sure it's cool, and then I'm gonna unwrap. I like to brush through real quick, and then I like to twist. I'm so sorry, guys. My cough is definitely coming back. Twist in the direction I want that to be. So I want it to be away from the face. So I'm twisting out with my brush. I'm gonna let that fall. And now I'll go back real quick and focus on all of these pieces that wanted to fall out. I've already worried about the roots. Those are going in the direction I want them to, so I'm just going to focus on creating that curl now. So I'm going through, heating this hair back up, because it's probably already pretty dry. Heating that hair back up so I can get a nice bend and curl in it. Cool shot to let it cool. Let that fall back. And then there's these two little pieces, these little sections here. Go ahead and do the exact same thing since those fell out. Work away from the face there. And I kind of let everything cool, and then I'll take my brush. I'm going to take this section out. We're going to pretend I dried this whole section. I'll turn her back to you so you guys can see. Really help that hair open up. Get all the tangles out, combine all of those sections together. You guys can see I'm really taking it and curling it around. You guys can see how much that opened up right around her face, but she still keeps all of that fringe. But this falls, this accentuates right there at her cheekbone that we wanted. These wispy full pieces, which if we wanted to go back and create even a smaller piece to create it more wispy, we could have that bend a little. Yes, super cute. And this side we would do the same thing with those pieces there because they want to fall right in her face. You guys can see, so we've completed this whole fringe area. So we went through at the very beginning and we did this layering technique to create these nice layers that fall out of her face. It's going to, one, give her that more butterfly effect quickly and really create that focus on her high cheekbones and her beautiful jawline to really accentuate her. And then we went back and added this nice full but curtain fringe, which I'm finding is super popular right now with my clients. They want that wispiness through here, but they still want that fringe to open up. And then we went back with our awesome new Super HP blow dryer from Olivia Garden and our new cycle brushes to create this nice opened up effect without any curling iron or anything. Now, if I wanted to go through and maybe do a curl right here to open that up a little bit more if I needed to, I would. But I don't feel like I necessarily need to. I like the way that that's laying right there on her. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You guys can see that layer, the way that that's falling, but she still has her fringe. Oh, I love it. Gorgeous. All right, well that is all, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something. Please, if you did, go ahead and give me a quick thumbs up. That way I just know that you guys can hear me and everything.